Hello fellow investors and welcome to Cielo Invest, where we bring knowledge to investments. Will Cielo Waste Solutions stock multiply by 75 in 5 years? Today we look into the available numbers and my price targets for the company. First, we'll take a look at who Cielo Waste Solutions are. I'm going to read from their own presentation. Cielo has a solution for one of the fastest growing and largest industries in the world, garbage. By 2050, the world is expected to generate 3.4 billion tons of waste each year, of which 33% is reportedly mismanaged by open dumping and burning. These stats are alarming, and this garbage is wreaking havoc on our planet. Cielo utilizes unlimited low-cost waste feedstock destined to landfills and mismanaged open dumping and converts it into high-grade renewable fuels, making us potentially one of the fastest growing ESG companies in North America. Cielo has an ideal solution. So in short, what Cielo does is they turn any material except rock, glass and metal into fuel. This means that Cielo can take, for example, all sorts of plastics in the world and turn them into fuel. So with this, let's have a little sneak peek at my price targets for the company. Here they are, and let's look at we have 3 cases here. We have the bear case, the base case, and the bull case. We measure with a forward PE ratio. So we're going to start with, if you look at the base case, for example, like 2021, my base case is that the stock will be at 2.48. In 2022, that's going to be 6.07. And if we look 5 years into the future, the base case is going to be around 55 Canadian dollars. And if you look at the bull case, that's actually 68.5, and that is more than 75 times the current stock price at 90 Canadian cents. Okay, to give a little perspective of upcoming events, we'll shortly look at Cielo's latest operation timeline. So here we can see we are in Q2 right now, and we have, let's see if we go to revenues here. Aldersyde, yes, the Aldersyde facility is completing its commission and expecting revenue shortly. They're currently having a desulfurization process that should be done around the end of June, perhaps early July, but end of June is what the communication is. We also have Dunmore, a facility here. It's going to be very big when it's finished. It's going to break ground here in Q2, so also end of June. Looking at Q3, we have the Aldersyde, which they will begin the construction of, or the upgrading to double its capacity to 2,000 liters per hour. And in Q4, they're going to commission that upgrade. So we're going to see some 2,000 liters per hour production from Aldersyde before this year comes to an end. Moving over to 2022, we can go to Q3 here. We see that the production for Dunmore begins. So here's where it's going to produce some revenue. And in Q4 here, we have the commissioning of the Edmonton facility, which is Cielo's second only, fully owned facility. And they already have Aldersyde, but Edmonton is going to be like a big, like their headquarters facility. So let's take a look at the numbers I have that gave these projections from before, so we get a better understanding of the company and about the price targets themselves. Here we go. Okay, so starting from the top. We have, here are the plants in production. So here are the years from 2020 all the way to 2030. I've written down my projections of how many facilities they're going to have in production. And now you see some commas here, which might be strange. I have actually a note for that. So one plant is 4,000 liters per hour. Aldersyde is going to be 2,000 liters per hour by the end of this year. And that one will be counted as 0.5 because every plant is 4,000 liters per hour, and that would be and that will equal a number of 1 in this chart. And also, if a plant is built halfway through the year, that is going to be counted as 0.5 for that year. So if a facility only can produce for 50% of the year, it would be 0.5. Yeah, and we have an example down here for those who want to look at that. And we also have the JV partnership that they have, where they have paid and unpaid plants. And they say what they say is that around 3 years, it's the time it's going to take for them to repay, pay for the facility completely. So here, yes. So my calculations are that the unpaid plants are going to be paid with the rest of the year plus 3 more years. So we say that our plant here is built in May 2022, and then it's going to be paid in full by the 31st of December 2025. That's 3 years and 7 months. So it's I don't know. I guess that's a moderate prediction. Moving down below, we have some financials. What I'm going to discuss. We'll go into more details later. I'm just going to go a little overview right now to see what we have. And we have the different sort of incomes. We have the plants that's going to produce income for Cielo. And we have carbon credits. And we have the JV fees. We have the byproduct sales, which are zeros. And I will explain that later. And others, which is, if you look at the right here, grants and subsidies. We expect them to get quite a lot of those, especially since they are an ESG company. And many governments around the world spends much money to help companies like these to grow. Yeah, and below we have the revenue from this and the EBITDA from this, and we do some basic calculations on the amortization, what we need to, the debt, how much we have to pay off, and then of course warrants, and also the interest of the amortizations. So I will go through them more details later, but these are the normal ones you count with for the EBITDA, and then it becomes an EBT, earnings before tax, and we apply the current tax or the tax we expect to pay, and we have the net profit. After all of these calculations, we have the projections themselves, and we can see we have outstanding shares, and I have done some calculations I'll show you further down on how this is going to develop. Earnings per share, which of course is very important when you do these PE ratios. And yeah, my bear base and bull case for the upcoming years. And here is a little note. So the forward PE ratio, it descends because in the early stages there is like some sort of like new hype, like this company's gonna grow and they're gonna have lots of deals. So I expect the PE ratio, the forward PE ratio, to be much bigger in the beginning, and then it's gonna scale down. So for example here in 2021, in the base case, the PE ratio, the forward PE ratio is gonna be 44, and by 2029 it's going to be 20. So it's gradually becoming a less forward PE to the future. And we have some notes. So these calculations, they are they're based on the estimations of rise in carbon credits, because the carbon credits are going to increase in price, and we also expect Cielo to get the tax reduction starting next year. That one I would say is pretty safe, but the estimation of rise in the carbon credits prices, it's it's nice they say that it's going to be like this, but I would like to see it. So that's something we should note. And also, my numbers are based on the scenario that Cielo fulfills their goal of building 40 facilities within 5 to 7 years. If they do more, that's better. If they do less, that's going to decrease the prediction a little. And also here, the carbon credits, the numbers are not released yet. And this might affect the prediction in a positive or negative directions. They are currently based on statements from the company, but we'll have their official numbers in around July, August, and that's gonna make them more like steady instead of the projections we have now. And also here a note is that the byproduct sales are not included, as they have no plans for the byproducts right now. They will in the future, but until then I'm gonna say 0 on that, so they're not included. Down here are some of the math that goes into the projections of the numbers up there. Here we can look at the plants. So the plant revenue, it's right now, it was before, and I guess now it should be 56. So they have on their webpage that they have like 50 million plant revenue and 28 million EBITDA. But the prices of fuel has increased a lot. The latest numbers we had like from a few days ago is that the price in Edmonton is 2.05 Canadian dollars, and these prices are based on, from what I know, 1.67. So there is an increase here. I didn't want to go super crazy, so I assume a fuel price of 1.87 throughout all of these years. It might be higher, it might be lower. Right now, it's actually much, much higher, but the numbers would be like so insane, so I had to lower them a little to make this look less silly. So this one might change in the future. We'll have to see. The fuel prices always vary. So we have the Cielo plants, we have the JV plants, and we have the JV, of course, the unpaid plants. If the plant is paid, it's going to be a 50% or 50.1% of the EBITDA to Cielo. If it's unpaid, it's going to be 30%. So this is really just basic math. And also one note here is that starting from 2023, I'll calculate that the yearly increase in EBITDA, it will be increased by 0.5% every year, because the more plants they have, they will be able to drive down the production cost. So if you look over here, for example, I mean, the revenue is still the same, but the EBITDA is actually going up little by little because of the efficiency improvements in the process. This is actually quite little, I would say, to go from like 34,000 to 35,000 in all these years. I think it will be much more beneficial in the future, but I'd like to put my numbers between conservative and moderate. I try to not put any crazy bullish numbers. That's not how I work. And then we can see the byproducts numbers, which I have set to 0 because we don't know. As soon as I have these numbers and Cielo releases something, I will add it in here, and it will change a lot of the numbers in this Excel sheet. And here is the warrant calculation. It's a little strange thing over here. I will show you. It's because they need debt. They need to borrow money to build facilities. It's nothing strange. Every company that grows needs to go in debt to expand. In the future, they won't have to. Until they're here, they need to borrow money. And I would say, looking at their history right now, they have paid much of their debt by exercising warrants, and I think that's a legit strategy moving forward, especially with the price going up for the stock. So I expect every debt to be paid with warrants. So therefore, these cancel each other out. We'll see if they actually end up borrowing more and using more warrants. I don't know. It's simply a simple estimation to work by. But the interest is 5% of the amortization. So this is actually a fee that will be here. But this is the warrants here with the warrant calculations. And how does the... And this is actually also how we calculate how much debt they will need to have. Because look at here. So 2022, we in my estimates up there, Cielo will be building one new plant. And I expect the plant to cost 80 million. I will come to that soon. So this will mean, okay, they will need to cover, to get like 80 million to pay for this. Their net profit that year will be 38. So I'm going to just do some simple math, and we realize that, okay, we need warrants to cover around 42 million Canadian dollars. And looking at everything here is math. So we can look at the bear projection from the year before, and you say, okay, so if they're gonna dilute warrants, this is probably the price they're going to use to when they sell it to other companies. So if you want to exercise our warrants here, it's going to be for this price. So looking at that price, they will need to dilute 22 million shares to be able to pay for the debts. And the next year they will need warrants to cover 16 millions, and then it's going to be 32 millions, 76 millions. This year they actually need to borrow for 170 million Canadian dollars. But as you can see, the warrants number of shares they have to dilute with is actually decreasing every year. This is because we always look at the year before bear price. So every share they will dilute with is going to be worth around $8 here. So therefore they can actually use less dilution to get even more money. And around 2028, there will be no more need for dilution unless they want to grow more aggressively, and that's up to them. And here is actually an interesting point I want to make. It's actually the plant cost. I've set average to 80 million. Now the numbers out there say it's 50 million, and I wouldn't disagree. I'm sure it's 50 million, but let's also take into account that building one facility with one plant, you have to buy the ground, you have to build up everything. I mean, sure, the plant itself costs 50 million, but the entire infrastructure costs much more. Looking at earlier numbers, I came to the conclusion, this is their earlier releases, that one plant in one facility is going to cost 90 million. And every plant, like ahead of time, so after this, every plant is going to be worth around 50 million. So 80 million per plant is actually pretty high. And the thing is, I'm calculating here, it's more of a conservative calculation. As you can see, I've counted that there's going to be 1.35 plants per facility. And Cielo has actually said that they are looking to find facilities where they know they can have feedstock for at least 3 plants. So this is a very conservative number, and this number should decrease a lot in the future. But for now, I'm going to keep it like this to make the numbers a little more sane. So let's look from the top down to the projections to see how did we get here. Okay, so this is actually one very important part here. It is how many plants are we going to have and how fast are we going to build these. And here, this year, actually going to be 0.1 because I expect the Alderside facility to have 2,000 liters per hour like near the end, so it will be able to produce like 10% years worth of a normal plant. So that's all we're gonna have this year. But the next year we're gonna have 0.75, and then the next year we're gonna have a little more. I guess this one down here, the total number of plants is what is important. So we're gonna grow kind of exponentially, and that is according to their own plans. And I had like a smooth, pretty easy type of exponential increase, which I would say is pretty realistic for their plans. If you look around here, so with my calculations of 1.35 plants per facility, that would mean this number. So I'm expecting them to reach their goal after about 6.5 years. Now, I mean, they say between 5 and 7 years, but let's also remember that if they reach 40 facilities, that's going to be at the very least 40 plants. I only count in plants because they are what gives revenue, not the facilities. And they said in a statement that, it doesn't mean that they have to have 40 plants. It can be 120 plants. Like we mentioned before, that they want to have feedstock for at least 3 plants per facility. So this could have been 120. It could also be 50, 70. It could be many things. So if Cielo reaches their facility goal that they have set, I would say this is actually very conservative. But if they do not meet their goal they have set, then this is, I guess, a moderate calculation. Because even if they have like 30 or 35 facilities here, I can definitely see there being 54 plants in total. So I would say these numbers are kind of conservative, but it all depends on the execution of Cielo. So all of these numbers will go down here to the financial information where we Well, this is actually this is the revenue we get from these. It's a simple math. You look at like, okay, in this year we're gonna have 6 plants operational for the full year, and then you look at, okay, what is the revenue? It's gonna be like this, and it's this a math formula, and you get this. So it counts everything. So here are the plants from above, pretty simple, straightforward. Here we have the carbon credits. This is a topic on its own, and I want you to keep an extra eye on this. Right now, the price for carbon credits is 40 Canadian dollars, and they have this projection of how they want it to scale. So next year is going to be, so this year is 40, next year is going to be 50, and all of the years after that is going to increase by 15. So here's going to be 15 more than that, 15 more than that, and in the end, at 2030, the carbon credits are going to be worth 170 Canadian dollars per carbon credit. And here is what's interesting, because Cielo has said that the carbon credits could actually equal or even be more than the EBITDA of their production itself. So over here, we actually have, let's see if I can see it, we have the plants, and we have, of course, the EBITDA of those. And then we just multiply with the, I will assume that 170 Canadian dollars is, once it reaches that point, it's going to equal. So I'm not going to do what they say, and it could be above. I mean, it could be less. So I'm just going to assume that once they are worth 170 Canadian dollars, it will equal the EBITDA. I wrote 162.5 because, you know, I want to average things out. I think this will reach $170 at the end of 2030, not the beginning. So I'm gonna take the ending value here and the ending value here and divide it by 2. So I get like the average carbon credit price for this year. These are high numbers. These are incredible numbers, and I am very anxious to see if those numbers are what Cielo has claimed they might be. And like I said, they will release these numbers in July, August, and I'm really looking forward to seeing those. Moving down, we have the JV fees, because their partner, Rue, I don't know how to pronounce that, they're going to pay Cielo management fees for the facilities they are going to build. Interesting is that these numbers, from earlier, just gonna add this, the earlier presentations they had, these numbers are actually, these should be half of this, but in their latest presentation, from nowhere, they kind of doubled these numbers to where you can see them now. I don't know if the old numbers are correct or the new numbers are correct, but I'm gonna go with the latest number they have, because that's what I have to go on. And besides, it's only a fraction of the entire revenue, so I don't really think it's going to matter if it's half or twice. And also, we haven't added the catalyst fee, because that fee is currently unknown. As soon as I have the catalyst fees, I'm going to add it in here. Okay, moving down to byproduct sales. I have set 0 to everything. It's going to be ash and sulfur, because their leftover product is actually high nutrition ash, which can be used in like it can work in the fertilizer industry, and they can also what they're speculating in is they can burn it to create some more green energy, but they haven't decided on what to do with it yet, and they haven't announced any revenue numbers of it. And also the sulfur, because you desulfurize, then you will have some sulfur left over. I will add numbers on these when they provide it. For now, it's going to be 0. And looking at the other post, we see something, I would say, it's like a row for grants and subsidies. Governments pay lots of money to ESG companies, and the Canadian budget included billions of Canadian dollars to net zero companies like Cielo will be. So I estimated that here between we start with 3% of their total revenue, and we scale it down to 1.2%. So Cielo will get more help in the beginning when they grow, and once they are kind of big, their grants and subsidies are gonna decline because they don't need it as much because they are really, really big. These numbers are pretty huge. I mean, here we're gonna have like, I expect there to be 35 millions of grants and subsidies in 2026 in 5 years. This is actually not much in any regard. If there is one state or one municipality that say we're gonna pay for this one plant, and you can help us remove the waste, which is definitely can happen. That would be 50 million. So that would be like more than this, and they're gonna build many plants. So I expect this to be, I would say this is kind of a moderate estimation. It can be much more, it can be less, but I would say the average would be around here, and we'll see what happens. Here's the revenue, nothing special about that. It's very big. I guess that's very special. The carbon credits are massive, especially with the increase in how much they are worth. It's going to be a massive impact on the revenue and also the EBITDA, which is big. We earlier talked about amortization and the warrants, like when they need to loan money. This is when they pay off some of the loan. And this is how much warrants, they like the income from warrants to cover for it. Here's the interest they have to pay. And I have set the interest to be 5% of the amortization. I would say, I mean, right now they have a deal for 6% interest rate, but they can pay off the debt at any time, which would lower that. And in the future, they're going to have better deals. So I would say 5% at average is pretty conservative, but we'll see where we land. And yeah, here is the earnings before tax, and here is the tax. And this is actually kind of interesting because right now the tax is around 26.5%. And also, I think it's here. Yeah, it's this year. And next year, they are going to decrease the tax for companies like Cielo with 50%. So you see, here we have this number, and then we go half of that. And they're gonna have this tax reduction for a long time until, I think around here. I think this one should still be lower like this one, but here around 2030, it's they will actually stop giving these tax reductions around here. But until then, it's going to be like super beneficial for companies like Cielo. And here is their net profit, and it's really big. And with all of these, especially with the net profit, we can look at the outstanding shares, which we calculated before with our warrant calculation. Like how many dilutions do we need? We need to add 22 million shares, 3, 4, 5, and then we were here last year. We are here now. And moving forward, we're going to add like this. And then in the end, we're going to stop at around 700 million shares. Might be lower, might be higher. Depends on what type of strategy they choose. But this is my estimate. Here are the earnings per share. And based on those, we have the forward PE ratios and with the bear, base, and bull cases. And that is it. That is how I came to these numbers. And I base all of my facts on Cielo's. Either if there is no like set knowledge, like this is how it is, and then I base it on Cielo's statements and do some conservative weight to it. So overall, if Cielo sticks to their plans and they do what they promise, I can definitely see these numbers happening. But it all depends on execution. It depends on very much about also here the carbon credits. If they don't get as much carbon credit as they claim, it's gonna get much lower, and then that's gonna increase. That's gonna affect the predictions I have here. So I'm really looking forward to those numbers in July, August, and I will update this chart with when that happens, and I will most likely post another video with the latest numbers so we are up to date. So that's about it, and thank you for being here with me for this long time. I want to clarify that I own Cielo stocks personally, and I'm not a financial advisor, so do your own research. And if you like this video, please like and share the video, and don't forget to subscribe. If you want to support my work, please consider becoming a Patreon. A link will be in the description to the video. I want to do this full time, and all the support I can will bring me one step closer to this goal. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.